This is NDTV, and you're watching Classics.
I will not go so far as to say that if there's food on your plate today, you have to thank my guest for it. But it will be no exaggeration still if I said that if 1 billion people, or most of them, have food in their bellies, and if India is a food surplus country, an exporting country, you have to thank my guest for it, Dr. S Swaminathan, father of the Green Revolution. Welcome to Walk the Talk.
Thank you very much, Shekhar ji. I must say, you should say the farmers of India, not me.
Well,
you
I
are
mean,
responsible for.
You enabled them, but you talk about the farmers of India.
Right.
This is 40 years after Green Revolution actually began, when the seed was planted.
Right.
And somehow the public discourse is as if our farmer is where he was in the 60s.
This is true. This is very true. Very true.
But why this feeling?
See, the mindset towards agriculture has unfortunately remained the same, almost from colonial times. When we thought agriculture is a profession, when people have to just produce food for the urban population.
Right.
But today, agriculture in the context of is a backbone of our livelihood security, of jobs, of income for 70% of our population. And also the very basis of our national sovereignty. The multidimensional nature of agriculture is not yet sunk because we were living on what was called ship-to-mouth existence in the past.
Ship to mouth, you say.
That's what
but
people
ship
used
to
to
mouth
say.
was in the 60s.
Right.
When food came by the ship. In fact, you waited.
Right.
That wheat is coming from Mexico.
Because all our godowns were near the ports.
Right.
All our
Right.
grain godowns. They were
Right.
not in the heartland of agriculture.
But then, Dr. Swaminathan, after we became self-sufficient in food, could it be that we became complacent in the past 10 years or so about agriculture?
To some extent, I would say there has been complacency because there were
Right.
large grain stocks, and so government felt that there is enough, and people started talking about self-sufficiency. India has become a grain exporting country and so on. But I think the whole context of the larger role of agriculture, with nearly 40% of the rural people having no land at all,
Right.
that it has to provide them also with jobs, with income, that was forgotten. And that is why we see the paradox today, what foreigners call grain mountains and hungry millions. We have the paradox of being one of the very dynamic agricultural countries in the world. At the same time, as one single nation, we have the unenviable reputation of having the largest number of undernourished children, women and men.
Right.
I always feel so very sad that we must be in that. We don't want that recognition. We should be number one in many areas, but not in the number of people who are undernourished.
So that you see as one of your challenges as the chairman of the new National Commission for Farmers.
The challenge is that we must now look upon agriculture in its real context of looking at the problem of income, jobs, apart from food security and livelihood, and also export earnings. We want agriculture is the largest private sector enterprise in our country. Over 600 million people are in agriculture. People don't realize when you talk about private sector enterprise, we talk about some big companies and so on. But the largest single private sector enterprise is agriculture. And when I say agriculture, I use the larger term.
Right.
Crops, animals, horticulture, fisheries, forestry,
Right.
agro-processing and so on.
Dairying.
And I think dairying, the whole area of
Right.
land and water-based occupations of
Right.
various kinds. We must change the mindset, the pre-independent mindset, and look upon agriculture today as the pride of our country.
As a wealth creator, or as a
wealth creator, as a job creator,
or as a food giver.
all the three. We also want food. We are over 1 billion people.
Right.
And we can't really import food. I have often said importing food in a predominantly agricultural country is like importing unemployment. Already you have people who are
How would you elaborate that? You said
Because-
importing food is like importing
The
unemployment.
reason is because 70% of our people, even by 2001 census, live in rural areas.
Right.
Majority of them, the occupation is different kinds of farming,
Right.
crop husbandry, animal husbandry and so on.
Right.
Now, if you depress prices by getting food from outside,
Right.
and what will happen? Even today, most of our farmers say agriculture is no more profitable because the input costs are high, the output is still low,
Right.
productivity is low.
Right.
And therefore, I think we should think of jobs for Indians
Right.
as the fundamental bottom line of all our development work.
And somehow the feeling is that it's industry that creates jobs, not agriculture.
Industry is now really leading to jobless growth. The job-led growth only can come from agriculture. In modern industry, good industrialist measures the progress by downsizing.
Or industry linked to agriculture.
That is true. That's what the Chinese did.
Right.
When they started, their reform started in agriculture,
Right.
not in industry.
Right.
They started from rural areas there about
Right.
24 years ago, their reform in agriculture. But when they started reform, they looked at two kinds of people. One for whom they can give land, because land is socially owned. The other who will have to depend on non-farm employment. So they had rural township enterprises where the people who have no land can be employed in skilled jobs. Otherwise, what will happen, we see in our own country here, people who are transplanting paddy and so on. These women who are transplanting will hardly get that $1 per day.
Right.
What the World Bank's 45 rupees, less than 45.
And this is the heart of Tamil Nadu, which is by no means the least developed, or by no means the most backward state. You know, the state's much more backward than this.
Much more, you are right. It's a progressive state.
Right.
It has, like all states, farmers have three major problems.
Right.
One is credit, the other is water,
Right.
the third is market.
Right.
These are really the three pillars. You have to have credit for the poorer the man, you have to have credit to buy goods, input seeds and so on. You
Right.
have to have water. Without water, nothing can be done.
Right.
And thirdly, we must have a market for the produce, because some produce they will keep for their own consumption.
Right.
The rest of it will have to go for cash income.